You walked into the grocery store last week. You grabbed the same bread, the same eggs, the same chicken you have been buying for years. And when you got to the register, you did the math in your head, and it still does not make sense. Inflation is over. That is what they keep telling you. The Fed says so. The news says so. Economists are patting themselves on the back. But your grocery bill is still 30, 40, sometimes 50% higher than it was in 2020. And nobody, not the government, not the Fed, not a single economist on TV, can give you a straight answer about why prices are not coming back down. Here is the uncomfortable truth. They are not coming back down. Not because of supply chains, not because of the war in Ukraine, not because of inflation. They are not coming back down because a handful of corporations, 4 companies specifically, now control so much of the food you eat that they do not have to compete for your dollar anymore. And when companies do not have to compete, they do not lower prices. Ever. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the $1 trillion oligopoly running your grocery bill and why the system was designed to make sure you keep paying. To understand how we got here, we have to go back to the 1980s. Imagine it is 1982. Ronald Reagan is in the White House. The buzzword in boardrooms across America is deregulation. The idea was simple. Let businesses merge, let markets consolidate, let the big players get bigger. Efficiency would follow. Competition would sort itself out. Prices would stay low. It sounds reasonable, until you follow the money 40 years forward. What actually happened was that a small number of corporations used that deregulation window to quietly buy up competitors, processing plants, distribution networks, and farmland until they didn't just sell food. They controlled it from the seed to the shelf. It wasn't just one industry. It happened at every single layer of the food chain at the same time over decades. By the time most people noticed, it was already over. Here's how the system actually works today. Let's start with meat. 4 companies, JBS, Tyson Foods, Cargill, and National Beef, now process more than 80% of the beef sold in the United States. 4 companies. For the entire country. JBS alone is the largest meat processing company on the planet. It processes roughly 25% of all United States beef. Tyson Foods processes another 22%. Together, just those 2 companies handle nearly half of every hamburger, steak, and beef patty sold in America. Pork is not much different. Smithfield Foods, now owned by a Chinese conglomerate, along with Tyson and a handful of others, control the majority of United States pork processing. Think about what that means in practice. If you are a cattle rancher and you want to sell your herd, you do not have 40 buyers competing for your business. You have maybe 3 or 4, and those buyers know it, so they offer you less. And because there is nowhere else to go, you take it. This is called monopsony power, when buyers are so concentrated that sellers have no real alternatives. Farmers are on the losing end of it every single day. But here's where it gets truly dark. It's not just production. It's the stores where you actually buy the food. Walmart alone captures nearly 25 cents of every grocery dollar spent in the United States. Add Kroger, Costco, Amazon Fresh, and Albertsons. And you've got a small group of retail giants controlling the majority of where Americans shop for food. And here's what most people don't realize about how supermarkets actually make money. The headline margin at a grocery store is razor thin, about 1 to 3% on most products. On paper, it sounds like they're barely breaking even, but that's the visible layer. The real money is hidden underneath it. Grocery chains charge food manufacturers what are called slotting fees, payments just for the right to have your product placed on a shelf. Want to be at eye level? That's extra. Want an end cap display near the entrance? More. Want to be featured in the weekly circular? Pay up. A mid-sized food brand can spend millions of dollars in slotting fees before a single consumer picks up their product. And who benefits from that system? The retailer. Always the retailer. On top of that, grocery chains have aggressively expanded their private label brands. The store brand products that sit right next to the name brands, often made in the same factory, always priced to squeeze the competitor. It looks like competition. It isn't. It's controlled extraction. Now here's the part almost nobody talks about: greedflation. During the inflation spike of 2021 and 2022, food companies had a legitimate cover story. Supply chains were broken, shipping costs exploded, labor was expensive, commodity prices surged, and so they raised prices, across the board, dramatically, and fast. But here's the catch: commodity prices came back down, shipping costs normalized, supply chains recovered, and the prices? They did not follow. A 2023 analysis by the Economic Policy Institute found that corporate profits accounted for more than 50% of price increases in the food and grocery sector during that period. Not labor costs, not materials, profits. Some economists started calling it greedflation, companies using the cover of a real supply shock to raise prices beyond what costs actually justified, banking on the fact that consumers had already adapted to the new normal. And it worked, because that's the nature of sticky prices. Prices are easy to raise. They are almost impossible to bring back down. Once consumers accept a new price point, companies have zero incentive to reduce it. Their margins are higher, their shareholders are happy, and nobody in the market is forcing them to compete on price, because there is not enough competition left to force anything. Think about that. Just sit with that for a second. There's a term for this market structure: oligopoly pricing. In a true competitive market, if one company raises prices unfairly, a competitor undercuts them. Customers switch. The overpriced company loses business. Prices come back down. In an oligopoly, that mechanism breaks. When 4 companies control 80% of beef processing, none of them need to undercut each other. They can all raise prices at the same time, without a single phone call, without a single illegal agreement, just by watching what the other does and matching it. This is called tacit coordination. It is perfectly legal, and it is exactly what happened. In 2021, while consumers were struggling, JBS reported a 65% increase in net revenue. Tyson Foods posted profits nearly double their pre-pandemic levels. Cargill, a private company, reported its highest profit in its 157-year history, $5 billion in a single year. Record profits, while families were cutting back on groceries. And then there's shrinkflation, which is the quieter cousin of a price hike. You didn't notice when your bag of chips went from 16 ounces to 13. You didn't notice when your orange juice carton went from 64 ounces to 52. You didn't notice when your cereal box got taller but somehow holds less. That's by design. The price on the shelf stays the same or goes up slightly. The package shrinks. Your effective cost per unit goes up. And your brain, anchored to the familiar price, doesn't register the hit. The consumer price index, the main tool we use to measure inflation, often misses shrinkflation entirely because it tracks price tags, not unit costs. So even when the official inflation number looks reasonable, you're being squeezed in ways the data doesn't capture. Here is another layer that almost nobody is talking about: the farm-to-fork margin gap. The farmer who raised the cattle you are eating is often making less money today than they were 20 years ago for the same animal. The commodity price they receive has been structurally compressed by the same consolidation that is squeezing consumers at the other end. In 1980, farmers received about 50 cents of every dollar spent on food. Today, that number is closer to 14 cents. The rest, 86 cents of every dollar, goes to processors, distributors, marketers, and retailers. The middlemen captured everything. Both ends of the chain, the farmer and the consumer, are getting squeezed simultaneously, and the corporations in the middle are getting fat on the spread. This is not a market malfunction. It is the market functioning exactly as the people who designed it intended. So where does that leave you? You cannot personally break up JBS or force Walmart to lower prices, but you are not powerless either. Here's what you can actually do. Number 1, buy private label. Store brand products are often made in the same facility as the name brand. Same quality, 20 to 40% cheaper. You are not sacrificing anything except the logo. Number 2, use warehouse clubs for staples. Costco and similar wholesale clubs operate on a membership model that forces them to keep markups low, typically capped at 15%. For high-volume staples like meat, cooking oil, and grains, the savings are real. Number 3, buy direct when you can. Farmers markets, farm share community-supported agriculture programs, and direct from farm online stores cut out the processor and the retailer entirely. The farmer gets more, you pay less, the middleman gets nothing. Number 4, support antitrust enforcement. The Federal Trade Commission has been scrutinizing food sector mergers more aggressively in recent years, including blocking the proposed Kroger and Albertsons merger in 2024. These cases matter. When they come up, pay attention and make noise. Every dollar you redirect away from the consolidated system is a dollar that chips, however slightly, at its grip. Here's the uncomfortable reality at the end of all this. Your grocery bill is not high because of bad luck. It's not high because of the pandemic, or Russia, or the weather. It's high because over 40 years, a small number of corporations systematically bought up the competition, locked in the distribution, and built a food system where they set the price, and you have no real alternative. The grocery store isn't a free market. It's a toll booth. And the same 4 or 5 companies own every lane. But at least now you know how the game is played and where the traps are. Hit the like button and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, what's the grocery item that's shocked you most with its price increase?